And there we go. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. And do want to thank everybody for joining us once again. A little chilly outside, and certainly an incredible weekend when we're talking about just what has happened, what hasn't happened, and we've got rallies against guns. We have people saying it's time for the gun control. We've got the people going up against faith healing. We've got the Russian investigation, tons of things to speak about at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We have the president talking about gun control, and, of course, tonight is our big gubernatorial rally put on by our friends at the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. Big ups to them. They will have Tommy Ahlquist, Brad Little, Raul Labrador. They'll be talking about guns, and, of course, we will expect to see the media there trying to put a negative spin on the Second Amendment. And look, our prayers, our thoughts go out to the people that are our victims. And it really comes down to whether or not you want to be a victim and you trust the laws to keep you safe. So with that, we're going to take your phone calls in a minute. But first, let's hear what the president has to say about guns and possible gun control.
Less than a week after the Florida school shooting that killed 17 people, President Trump said in a statement that he is supportive of efforts to improve the federal background check system for gun purchases. White House spokesman Raj Shah, meanwhile, says the FBI needs to answer some tough questions.
They need to look into exactly what happened, why this information that was clearly given to somebody at a call center was not forwarded to the Miami field office.
The president's only action on guns as president eliminated a regulation that required the Social Security Administration to disclose information quarterly to the National Gun Background Check System about certain people with mental illness. At the White House, John Decker, Fox News.
And let's go to Lori in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning. Thanks for the show. I heard something that jogged my memory and thinking, talking about in the olden days, kids carried guns in the window of their truck. And I'm an old person and graduated from Boise High, and pretty much everybody, all the guys that had a pickup truck in the parking lot at school had a gun rack and had a rifle in there, and they would go out bird shooting or a shotgun or something, go out after school. And it was just really common. And also I was a sponsor for ROTC, that means kind of secretarial support duties for companies in Boise High School. And we had a shooting range down in a practice target range of 22s down in the basement of Boise High, and it's still, you can still see, they've used it for something else, but yeah, it's still there. And this person I was listening to on the radio said, people have changed. We used to not have school shootings. We did not have school shootings, and there were guns all over. And I would ride in a pickup with my grandfather. He had a gun rack in the back. And so it's not the guns. It is the people. It's the increased violence. And to me, the logical thing to do is to there should not be gun-free zones. It doesn't make sense to have gun-free zones anywhere, theaters or schools, and they should have armed resource officers at the schools, and they should lock the schools. The fact that this young man could walk into a side door and that was unlocked, and everybody should have to go through the front door, and those doors need to be locked. And if you don't have the permission to be there, you shouldn't be there. So I have a family member who lost a friend out there in Florida, and they just went to the funeral yesterday, and it's just tragic. But we need to do logical things. And I heard the sheriff, I hope you can play the clip of it sometime, this sheriff of Broward County is saying we need to lock the schools and we need armed people. We have a lot of retired people or people that we could check out that were in the military and so on, and they'd be willing. Schools need to have armed resource officers, need to have protection in the schools. That's a logical thing to do, and that's not being said. And these kids need to understand that we would not have our country if we did not have guns. If we did not have those colonists armed, this ragtag army that was blessed by God to put together this country, we would not have it. And if our guns go, and people are openly talking about terminating the Second Amendment or amending the Constitution to withdraw the Second Amendment, and if we do that, we're putting ourselves at risk not only violent gangs and that kind of thing, but a government that could be oppressive. And every government that has become oppressive and murderous with its people has withdrawn its guns. And these kids need to understand that guns gave us America.
The kids have been brought up on the violent video games.
Right.
The kids have been brought up on you compromise, there's no confrontation. And let's face it, we'd all like to do that, but there has to be confrontation. There has to be, a debate of ideals. And the kids believe that, passing a law is going to keep people safe. And you and I both know, Lori, that's not going to happen.
Right. And the kids, like I say, there has been change. They're talking about people being on psychotropic drugs and that kind of thing. And because that's the point, because people have changed, because we have a lot of violence in the mentality of a lot of people, that's why we need to keep the school safe and do the logical thing, lock the school, arm the school, because it's going to happen. We cannot take away the thing that's happening in our country, and that's a lot of evil and a lot of influence for violence.
All right,
So
Lori, thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio, where we hear your voice.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go to Roger in Emmett with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Roger.
Good morning, Kevin. First-time caller.
Well, welcome.
Hey, here's the question. How many retired law enforcement people do we have in our country? Tens of thousands? Maybe hundreds of thousands?
I'd say.
They're highly trained, and a lot of them are bored. So how about implementing some kind of voluntary program and bringing those retired peace officers into schools to provide security?
We'd have to pay them, wouldn't we?
There's plenty of volunteer programs through local law enforcement agencies where people volunteer, and this would be, I think, a perfect scenario where you could have highly trained, they're already trained, and they're highly trained, in fact, and they're a resource that is, for the most part, a lot of them are just looking for stuff to do. So you could administer it through your local law enforcement agencies and provide security for the schools.
Well, I think that sounds good. I just don't know if people would do that for free, especially when you have to deal with the liability, the litigation, and dealing with emotional kids and parents, at school. I love the idea. I just don't know if they would be willing to do that for free.
Yeah, well, there's programs now within police agencies and sheriff's offices where retired people volunteer to do patrol, to do graffiti removal, do various things like that. And they do it on a voluntary basis. They don't get paid. And they're glad to do it. So, it may not work. You may not get enough volunteers, but I think it'd be worth a try.
Well, it can't hurt, number one, and something's better than nothing. Your thoughts, though, on the video is not the video, but the police are not the police, but we're all being inundated by the media here, Roger, with, we need more laws with gun control with respect to the victims. Your thoughts on the media and the Democrats and the gun grabbers going on overload?
Well, they're all forgetting about the Second Amendment. And I don't feel you should punish law-abiding citizens for people that are irresponsible and criminal. You should deal with the criminals, and I think that's the shortcoming of the system. Criminals aren't dealt with properly.
Well, I would agree with you. Roger, don't be a stranger anymore. Thank you.
I appreciate your program.
Thank you, sir. We're going to throw that out and see if people agree with you or not. Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, Roger and Emmett. More and more people taking part in this town hall meeting every morning. We appreciate you. Kevin Miller in the morning. If you're just listening to us for the first time on 107.5 FM, that is our affiliate station. Kevin Miller here on our flagship station, 580 KIDO, where we talk about the issues that matter to you. And I understand when we're talking gun control, when we're talking gun issues, and you're going to, we're being inundated by the media with, all these people screaming and yelling. But as we have advocated for years, you want to protect people. Don't you allow them to protect themselves instead of taking away their rights? I mean, do we need to really expand gun-free zones?
This isn't about the GOP. This isn't about the Democrats. This is about the adults. We feel neglected, and at this point, you're either with us or against us.
There we have it. Students for Gun Control. They're marching, and there's going to be a big national march. Now, thankfully, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, we don't have that situation here yet. And again, our prayers go out to those families that are impacted. Certainly very emotional. But when you take a look at the idea of what's being organized, do you in your right mind believe that if you pass a law, you're going to be able to stop these things? Now, people are talking about the bump stocks and vilifying the NRA and everything else. Let's have a rational discussion.
People are saying that it's not time to talk about gun control, and we can respect that. Here's a time, March 24th, in every single city. We are going to be marching together as students begging for our lives.
Right. And again, you have people taking advantage of this. Now, as we've seen in both of these unfortunate shootings, the FBI dropped the ball. The Air Force dropped the ball in the Vegas shooting. Now, we're not banning the FBI that seems to have this obsession with the Russian investigation. We're not banning them. We're not banning anybody else. We're not banning the Air Force for passing on this information, expanded background checks, making the age to 21, banning the AR-15. This is what Alexander Hamilton feared, mob rule. And that's what we're seeing in the media, right?
I want to hear who's angry. I want to hear who's gonna vote them out. Drain the NRA! 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 Drain the NRA!
Stan in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Stan.
Good morning. How you doing this morning, Kevin?
Glad to be back. And you?
Good. I'm doing great. Hey, we keep talking about, whether gun control is right or wrong, and everybody's pretty set on their own ways. I don't think we're going to change a whole lot of minds. You're for gun control, you're for it. If you're against it, you're against it. But let's start looking at the mentality of these shooters. And what are they all looking for? I mean, they're all looking for fame, for fortune. This guy said that, I'm going to be a professional school shooter. A lot of them refer back to Columbine. Why don't we take the fame and fortune out of it? Why don't we, like we did, over a year ago when Officer Holtry was killed, Officer Holtry said, the name of the man that shot me will never pass my lips. And he asked the media not to put that name out either. Why can't we do that? I mean, every time there's something big that happens in the world, who claims it? ISIS. They're trying to keep themselves relevant. They're trying to keep themselves famous. Why don't we just start saying we had a tragic school shooting? It was a 19-year-old we have in custody. The 19-year-old's going to court. Quit putting his name out there. Don't let anybody know who he is. Now, you can find it out. I mean, there's always public information requests. But if the media would kick in and stop mentioning these guys' names every 10 seconds, the next guy who's thinking about it is going to realize, I don't get any fame and fortune for it. I did something, but nobody knows who I am.
That's a great point. That's a great point when you're looking at this whole thing, because we've elevated the shooter.
Exactly. And then we don't make it, Democrats versus Republicans, gun control versus no gun control. We try to take the fame and fortune out of it, and possibly we'll get the next nutcase who's trying to make himself famous, whether it's through death or through being alive. I mean, this guy now, he's going to live through all his court trials. His name's in the news every day, about every hour. You keep hearing his name, Nicholas Cruz, or whatever his name is. Just take his name out of it. I mean, pretty soon, people forget who he is, and they'll just start thinking about the incident. And maybe the next guy won't do it. That's all I got, bud.
Thank you, Stan. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Mark in New Plymouth with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Mark.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. I just figured I'd chime in about the gun control deal. And I was over on the East Coast for about 5 months this last summer working. And talking to a lot of the people over there were, it's a very liberal state. That these people, they already have severe gun control where you can't even own more than one firearm, like one automatic or one pistol. You have to pay like a $300 permit fee to your local sheriff's department and register that one gun. And every gun that you get, you have to get it approved through your local law enforcement before you can even have that gun in your home. And most of these people over there, they're all right with that. They don't even care because it's been like that for quite a while. And you watch the news over there, it's not stopping anything. I mean, you have a shooting here, a shooting there every night when you watch the news over there in different cities. And they're just unarming all the good law-abiding citizens. And I don't know what the logic is behind thinking that more laws is going to help not have a firearm. It's just crazy over there.
Oh, I would agree
Things
with
like
you.
that.
I mean, look at Chicago, as you've pointed out.
Yeah, it's insane. And
What do you make
some
of the
them,
emotion, though, of the kids that are, now mobilized?
Mobilized kids?
Yeah, the kids that are that are screaming and yelling that they're going to vote everybody out. Here, let's here you go.
People are saying that it's not time to talk about gun control, and we can respect that. Here's a time, March 24th, in every single city. We are going to be marching together as students begging for our lives.
There you have it.
Oh, my God. Wow. I can't say nothing on that. That's insane. I guess I was just raised differently, where it's just, I guess the logic behind their parents and thinking that that's a logical, avenue to take to solve a problem. And that's insane. I don't know. I don't have anything good to say about that. Not that I could say on the air.
Mark, thank you for the call. Have a safe trip, and hello to your dad, all right?
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care. David, hang on. We'll take your calls next. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day. Continuing our talk about guns, let's go to David in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, David.
Hey, it's time to beat up the NRA again. May I comment on that? I wasn't going to, but somebody mentioned this. In Michael Moore's crockumentary, Bowling for Columbine, he says that the NRA was founded the same year as the Klan, which is funny because if you literally look at the seal, it tells you the incorporation date of the NRA. I mean, it says National Rifle Association Incorporated 1874. Excuse me. The Klan Wars were in 1867. So, having established the NRA was around since 1874, do you know what happened 105 years later?
What's
they
that?
had the Santee shooting.
Mm.
Remember
Right.
the song, hello?
Yes, David, I was agreeing with you. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The song Boomtown Rats, I Don't Like Mondays, came from that, where a girl shot into the school. In fact, I remember it happened 21 years later, and I was at a science fiction club, and that's when somebody told me about it. I subsequently read about it and whatever. She killed the principal and the custodian, and she shot 2 or 3 kids. And a few years later, speaking of San Diego County, in San Ysidro, we had the McMassacre. And then a decade later, we had Luby's cafeteria. A gun-free zone, by the way. In fact, there was a champion pistol shooter who was there, but because she was a law-abiding citizen, her gun was locked in the trunk of her car, 50 feet away. So she watched her mother and father die. She said, that guy was less than 15 feet away from me, and I'm a champion shot. She said, I wish I could do it over again. I'd rather be in jail and have my father alive. And then we had the school shootings. So the NRA was around for 105 years before this mass shooting started. And it's not video games. It's a lot of things. And video games are part of it because they have headshots. The Paducah shooter took several headshots. And, if you've ever read Dave Grossman's work, that video games are kind of murder simulators. I mean, that's what they get troops to do. Some of the things they do are actually play video games, but that's very little. It's a breakdown of a lot of things. And I think it's this drug culture, where feminists are now, they have so debased men. In fact, in Sweden, it's actually worse. I heard last week they're bringing in Spanish men because the Swedish men have been so beat up by feminists that, the Swedish women don't respect them. But it's a lot of things. But they're going to go after the NRA. Well, that's why lynching stopped, because mass media saw what was happening. The NRA went down and started having gun clubs. And that's what stopped lynchings. Thank you very much. I think there were, 3 or 4 in the 50s and 2 in the 60s. So, from the hundreds, I think it was like 5,500, a little less than that. And by the way, about 800 or 900 were white Republicans who were trying to help blacks. Remember Party of Lincoln and all that?
Indeed.
But, yeah, so it's a lot of things. And one of the things it said was there was a psychiatrist about 15 years ago who said you used to have neuroses. Now you have impulse disorders, meaning food, sex, and walking into a place and shooting everything up. It's all about me. About 7 years ago, there was a study that said that 24% of college students hit 85% of the markers, not just for narcissism, but for malignant narcissism.
David, that's a great point. Thank you for the call. Liberty Linda, hang on. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KI. And let's find out what's happening in your world at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
And Liberty Linda, hang on. We're going to come to you in a minute. First, to New York City. Tanya J. Power is joining us with the very latest from Fox News Radio. And apparently there's a big money donor that is going to withhold some financial contributions unless there's some movement on the gun issue. Tanya, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, this is a Republican backer. He has put in hundreds of millions of dollars to Republican campaigns over the years. He is 83. His name is Al Hoffman Jr. He is a Florida-based real estate developer. And after the Parkland, Florida shooting last week, that was, I guess, for lack of a better word, his line in the sand, so to speak. That was his point. He said that he has sent an email to other GOP donors. He's urging them to support a ban on assault weapons. And he says that he won't write a check for anybody that does not propose a ban on assault-style weapons. Now, the question of what exactly is he calling an assault-style weapon, I didn't see the email. I don't know if he was specific in which type of weapons he's talking about. But the fact that he is threatening to withhold his money will probably get some people's attention. Now, he was asked by a CBS reporter if he would be willing to write a check to Democrats and Republicans who are in favor of the ban. He said he would support a fiscally conservative person who supports the ban, and he said at this moment in time, I really don't care whether it's a Republican or a Democrat.
You have to wonder if this is just an outlier or we're going to see more people like this.
Yeah, it obviously remains to be seen, but this is one of those tragic incidents that it seems to be getting. This seems to be the tipping point for a lot of people. In the debate over gun control and how we handle things like this. The students who are from that school who lost 17 of their classmates and teachers and people, 100 of them are busing today 400 miles to Tallahassee to rally and to urge the lawmakers to do something. Between that and this big name donor coming out and saying, look, this is it. This is enough. This is where I draw the line. I'm like you. I kind of wonder if there will be other people who say, okay, well, I'm going to keep the pocketbook shut. He also sent an email, from what we understand, to Governor Rick Scott of Florida, who is considering a Senate run, and urged him to do something as well.
Now I never would put words in your mouth, but there is a cynical nature to all of us, and I would say reporters in particular. And I'm wondering whether or not, again, is this different? And I believe the only way it will be different is if there's something actually done, as opposed to, everybody getting up in arms about this, the president commenting on this as well. But again, I don't know if this is a unique Southern phrase, but the proof is in the pudding. So I'm wondering, again, it's horrible tragedy. We have people mobilized, but will there really be real legislation this time? Or
I don't know.
We all going to go back to March Madness in a couple weeks?
Yeah. I mean, that's the $64,000 question. It is more difficult, I think, for lawmakers to have the reaction that they've just been getting hammered for is the thoughts and prayers thing. And it is more difficult when you have the students who were there in the school. I mean, usually when tragedies like this happen, we don't hear a lot from, there's not this, mass group of them that gets in front of the cameras and the microphones and says, okay, here's what we propose, here's what we think we should do. Usually, you don't hear from these people because, I mean, this is a horrible, shocking tragedy that they've just gone through. This time seems to be different with that. There are kids who, went through that. I mean, lost friends and teachers and were there when it happened. And, they're the ones who are standing up making a lot of noise, and they don't seem to be backing down anytime soon.
Tanya J. Powers, we appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Sure, anytime.
All right, Tanya J. Powers joining us. Let's get to Liberty Linda with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. First of all, I'd like to say yay to Tanya J. Powers, our rodeo queen. We always like hearing from her. Kevin, those people calling for gun control are doing it through anger. Now, whatever we do needs to be done through common sense, I believe. And some of the common sense, I believe, is number one, the first thing we need to do is ban gun-free zones. That's automatic, number one thing, I believe. And number two, then only one or two entrances that are locked and have cameras. There's no reason for people to be coming into the schools and wandering around. We need to control that. And then, of course, armed guards. And then I also believe in prayer. That I think it's all right to pray for our president, that he may have inspiration to lead and guide our country.
Well, here, let me have you answer this. If you were approached by this student here, let's say we're at a KIDO Talk Radio town hall meeting and he said this.
This isn't about the GOP. This isn't about the Democrats. This is about the adults. We feel neglected, and at this point, you're either with us or against us.
What would you say to that person, Liberty Linda?
They're confused. What was the last word he said? He believed in what?
Let's hear him one more time.
This isn't about the GOP. This isn't about the Democrats. This is about the adults. We feel neglected, and at this point, you're either with us or against us.
You're either with them or against them.
Well, I would be against him if I heard that correctly. And, I'm for common sense. We have to bring common sense back into our nation. We're not having that. And taking away our guns, that's what protects us. We need to use a gun as protection only. I can't understand this person, now he's bargaining with the judge. After what he's done, he's there in front of the judge bargaining. And I just couldn't believe that when I heard it. Anyway, I think we should have more prayer in our nation for those who are leading our country.
Well, I think that's why it's going to be a big thing tonight in Nampa. I think you're going to have the press trying to put words into the mouth of our gubernatorial candidates, by the way.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the president came out and endorsed Mitt Romney. I think he's going to be much better than the person who was there. And anyway, and then also, Kevin, I want to thank you because, you don't just do this show, which is, the major thing here in our community, but you also go out and do all these other events. Like, everything that you do, it just brings us together as a big family here. And how much we appreciate you and all the work that you do. You're always going. That's why I think it's great when you have a day off. and I know Dorothy probably has to tie you down.
It was yes, it wasn't really a day off yesterday. I had to do a lot of shopping with her, and it's funny. Well, anyway, I'll have to save that for another time, Liberty Linda. Thank you.
Okay. Well, and I think that Ray Amaya, he should call in sometime.
Yeah.
He has great ideas.
He does. Sometimes the ideas you hear from me are Ray's, so I always give him credit for that.
I told him, I said that I thought he should call in.
Well, we'd move him to the front of the line. Thank you, Liberty Linda.
Okay, Kevin. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. If you're hanging on, Brad, Peyton, and Hank, hang on. We're going to get to you next. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
The FBI called for, they were told about this. Now we learn that the Governor Scott's office was told about this, the mental health office. When you're told of these situations, we have to be more careful and more stringent given the availability of guns. But if AR-15s weren't available, that would also go a long way to solving the problem. You need to do both. One is not an excuse for the other.
There we have it. Chuck Schumer with his thoughts, getting rid of the AR-15. Kevin Miller in the morning. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio on 107.5 FM and 580 AM, where we proudly listen to you about the issues that impact you. None bigger than safety. Let's go to Brad in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. It's been a while.
It has. And by the way, I want to apologize for apparently our internet stream was down. We had several people emailing me about it, but it apparently is up. Of course, our KIDO Talk Radio app, exclusive to the Treasure Valley, or you can do it the old-fashioned way, which is the way I like it. Brad, sorry, go ahead, please.
That's perfectly fine, Mr. Miller. Anyways, I wanted to talk about the unfortunate events that everybody talks about in Florida and how we could have done something about it without invoking gun control or anything of the like. First off, there's how many millions of homeless and jobless vets out there that need a job. Go through, you give them the proper training, and boom, there you go. You got a security force that has the previous training for military, and then you have the civilian training that make them doubly effective, but it's not.
Indeed. Although we'd have to pay them, where are we going to get the money for that?
Well, we start either we start up a GoFundMe, or we actually take some of the taxes that are going to these useless government programs and start kind of reducing the size of government, much like Calvin Coolidge did for the Roaring '20s. Anyways, the second thing that we could do, either simultaneously or in replacement of, is do some sort of metal detector system and have one installed at the entrance of every school. I realize some schools, like Tampa High School that I attended, are an open campus style with many buildings, at which point I think the armed security would be the best. And finally, last but not least, I do believe that if you gave the teachers the option, not force them, but you gave them the option to whether or not they could carry concealed on campus, I think you'd see a lot less gun violence in schools that would implement this. However, I do know that my stepfather, he is a English teacher and he's been teaching drama at my school. Although he is a sportsman and likes to go hunting, he has said before that he refuses to work at a school if they allowed teachers to carry, because he knows many teachers and students who would take advantage of that for ill reasons.
Brad, do you think people would approve teachers conceal and carry? We've had this conversation before here in Idaho.
There's always going to be two sides to every issue, those who like it and those who don't. And I say that as the person, whoever doesn't like it, you have every right to not like it. I mean, this is a free country. No one's forcing you to carry, which is what I would say. No one's forcing people students do not like that and they want to move schools, by all means, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you, and I think you should. If it's something that happens in your district goes against your principles and your values, then by all means, move away from it. That's the only way you could really enforce any change is by voting either with your money, the ballot box, or with your presence.
Well, what concerns me is the emotionalism that we hear that the kids are marching. And not to out Tanya J. Powers, but you could kind of tell that in her reporting as well. Well, look, unless there's legislation passed on background checks, and really, does that really prove anything? We're using this emotion and everything else to get a political point of view across. Look at Chuck Schumer talking about banning the AR-15. I think it's a little soon for that. I think it's a little soon where we should all just take a deep breath and try and figure this out, as opposed to, the NRA is evil, gun owners of America are evil, people that own guns are evil. And that's what's permeating throughout the press corps and throughout every, radio element besides the one here. What do you think? Here's the deal. I know that America was founded on God and guns, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I forgot who was quoted as saying it, but inaction in the presence of evil is evil itself. The FBI went to this kid's house and was alerted because he posted up something on YouTube saying he wanted to be a professional school shooter. That was like 2 months before the events in Florida. Now, you tell me how the FBI is not evil, or at least whoever was in charge of that case, that particular case, is not evil by any lack of action on their part when they had clear evidence and many sources coming in with concerns saying, hey, this kid's not right, and he was going to be doing something.
Exactly. Brad, I've got to run. Don't be a stranger anymore.
I'll try not to, Mr. Miller.
All right. God bless. KIDO Talk Radio time is 6:56. Time for traffic. And let's go to Peyton. Peyton, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, brother.
Well, I can't stay silent anymore. Our nation children need our help, Kevin, and we need to stop arguing or trying to find a solution that splits the nation in two sides that will argue eternally. They will never stop arguing. We will never stop arguing about guns, and I'm not going to give up my only defense against a corrupt government when there's many other solutions like mental health, focusing on mental health, not ignoring red flags, not wanting to politicize every single shooting and can't wait till the next one like some people in our government. What we need to do is focus on a solution that doesn't divide the country, where we can actually start preventing things from happening. Mental health and red flags would be a good start. And draining the swamp, of course. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say mostly, Kevin.
Well, Peyton from the Young Conservatives of Idaho, we appreciate you. What would you say to these young people that are going crazy?
Well, I think I would say it wasn't long ago when I was in high school and I felt neglected and I felt like my government didn't care about me. And, it's not a mistake that when you turn on the news, you feel that fear of, man, the world's crazy. Why would I want the news in my life? I don't want to watch that. It's not a mistake that happens. And the mental health problems in our youth, that's not a mistake either. If I would say anything to our youth, I would say, don't watch the things that are put right in front of you. If you want entertainment and media and news, find it yourself, because you're being poisoned.
Well, find it right here, where the people are the truth.
At KIDO, that's right. Best place to listen to it.
Thank you, Peyton. God bless.
You have a good one.
All right. Hank, hang on. Greg Pruitt next to talk about the big event tonight. You don't want to miss it. The Governors on Guns by the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.